It's my sole excuse for having married him. Have you the face to pretend he has any mental charm?
But how did he make the £50,000? Was it on the stock exchange?
Nonsense. The creature doesn't know the difference between a cumulative preference and a deferred ordinary. Wouldn't know how to begin.
But how did he begin? My bank balance is at present about 150. I should very much like to know how to make it up to 50,000. You are so rich, Epiphania, that you don't know how a man to whom £100 is a considerable sum feels in the arms of a woman to whom £1,000,000 is mere pin money.
And you don't know how it feels to be a woman in the arms of a man and know that you could buy him 20 times over and not miss the price.
If I give you my £150, will you invest it for me?
It is not worth investing. You cannot make money on the stock exchange until your weekly account is at least 70,000. Do not meddle with money, Adrian. You do not understand it. I will give you all you need.
No, thank you. I should lose my self-respect. I prefer the poor man's luxury of paying for your cabs and flowers and theatre tickets and lunches at the Ritz and all the little sums you have occasion for when we are together.
It's quite true. I never carry pocket money about with me. I must owe you millions in odd £5 notes. I will tell my bankers that you want 1,000 on account.
But I don't. I love lending you fivers, only as they run through my comparatively slender means at an appalling rate. I should honestly like a few lessons from Alistair in the art of turning hundreds into tens of thousands.
His example would be useless to you, Adrian, because Alistair's one of nature's marvels, and there's nothing marvellous about you, except your appetite.
Do explain how Alistair made the £50,000?
I leave him to tell that disgraceful tale himself. I believe he's proud of it.
Well, it worked out all right, but it was a near thing, I can tell you. And what I did was this. I met an American, and I told him that I was crazy about a woman who wouldn't marry me unless I made 50,000 in 6 months, and I had only £150 in all the world. He jumped up and said, "Why, man alive, if you've got £150, you can open a bank account, you can get a checkbook." I said, "Well, what good is a checkbook?" And he said, "Are we partners? 50-50? And I said, yes, you know, I mean, what else could I say? That very day, we started in. We lodged the money, and we took out a book of 150 cheques. We took a theatre. We engaged a first-rate company. We got a play. We had a splendid production. The girls were lovely. The scenery was lovely. The principal woman was an angry-eyed creature with a queer foreign voice and a Hollywood accent, just the sort the public adore. We never asked the price of anything. We just went in, up to our necks, for thousands and thousands.
But how did you pay for all these things?
With our cheques. So didn't I tell you we had a checkbook?
But when the £150 was gone, the cheques must have been dishonoured.
Not one of them. We kited them all.
I don't understand. What does kiting mean?
Oh, it's quite simple. You pay for something with a cheque after the banks have closed for the day. If it's on Saturday or just before a bank holiday, all the better. Now, say the cheque is for £100 and you've not a penny at the bank. You must then induce a friend or a hotel manager to cash another cheque for £100 for you. That provides for the previous cheque. But it obliges you, on pain of 18 months' hard labour, to induce another friend or hotel manager to cash another cheque for you for £200. And so you go on, spending and kiting from hundreds to thousands, and from risks of 18 months' imprisonment to 5 years, 10 years, or 14 years even.
And if you think that's an easy job, just try it for yourself, that's all. I dream about it sometimes. It's my worst nightmare. Why, my partner and I, we never saw that play, we never saw that theatre. Up to the first night, we were signing cheques and kiting them all the time. Well, of course, it became easier after a while, because as we began to pay our way all right, we found it easier to get credit, and the big expenses didn't come in until after the play was produced and the money started to come in. I could have done it for half the amount, but the American, he couldn't keep himself up with the excitement of it, unless we paid twice as much as we needed for everything. But it didn't really matter. Once that money started to come in, and my, oh my, did it come in. The whole town went mad about the angry-eyed woman. It rained money in buckets full. It went to my head like drink. It went to the American's head. It went to the head of the American's American friends. We bought the rights. We bought We bought the film rights, the touring rights, the translation rights, all sorts of rights that I didn't even know existed. And they sold them off to one another so that everyone in New York and in Hollywood and in London, they all had a rake-off on them. But I only wanted £50,000, and so I cleared out with that, and I went swanking back to claim Eppie's hand, and she thought I was great. And I was great. The money made me great. I tell you, I was drunk with it. I was another man, and you can believe it or not as you wish, but my hats were really too small for me.
It's quite true. The creature was quite transfigured. I, poor innocent, had no suspicion that money could work such miracles, for I'd possessed millions from my cradle. It meant no more to me than the air I breathed.
But just now, when I suggested a divorce, you asked how he was to live. What has become of the £50,000?
He bought a circus with it. He thought everything he touched would turn to gold. 3 weeks later, I had to liquidate that circus. He was about to turn the wild beasts loose and run away when I intervened. I was down £430, 16 and 7 by the transaction.
Ah, was it my fault? The elephant got influenza. The Ministry of Health closed us down, wouldn't let me move on because they thought the animals would carry foot and mouth disease.
At all events, instead of being 50,000 to the good, I was 430 to the bad. And now Alistair has the audacity to ask me for a divorce.
No, I don't. Oh, Sagamore suggested that. How can I afford to let you divorce me? I mean, as your husband, I enjoy a good deal of social consideration, and the tradesmen give me unlimited credit.
Here's for stockings, among other things.
Ali, does she pay for them?
No, never mind. Look, I have shown that I can make money when I'm put to it. I will make money again, and I will buy you all the silk stockings you need out of my own earnings. Now, don't cry, darling.
Yeah, they think they're married already.
The matter is not in your hands, Mr. Fitzfassenden. Mrs. Fitzfassenden can divorce you whether you like it or not. See, the evidence is that on a recent occasion you left your wife and took refuge in the arms of Miss Smith. The courts will give Mrs. Fitzfassenden a decree on that.
Well, let it. I can support Alistair till he has time to make another fortune. You all think him a fool, but he's a dear, good boy. And it disgusts me the way you all turn against him and the way his wife treats him like dirt under her feet. What would she be without her money, I'd like to know?
Nobody is anybody without money, C.D. Stockings. My dear old father taught me that. Stick to your money, he said, and all other things shall be added unto you. He said it was from the Bible. I've never verified the quotation, but I've never forgotten it. I have stuck to my money, and I shall continue to stick to it. Rich as I am, I can hardly forgive Alistair for letting me down £430.
16 and 7, you stingy beast, but I'll pay it.
You will, dear. I should sell out my insurance and give it to you.
May I have that in writing, Miss Smith?
Oh, you ought to be ashamed of yourself, you greedy pig. It was your fault. Why did you let the elephant go for £30? It cost 200.
Yes, let's wander from the point.
Yeah, well, what is the point, pray?
The point is that you can obtain a divorce if you wish.
I don't wish. Do you think I'm going to be dragged through the divorce court and have my picture in the papers with that thing? To have the story of my infatuation in headlines in every rag in London? Besides, it suits me to be married. It's respectable, it keeps other men off, it gives me a freedom I could not enjoy as a single woman. Besides, I'm accustomed to a husband. No, decidedly no, I will not divorce Alistair. At least not until I find a substitute whom I really want.
Couldn't divorce him unless he chose to let you. Alistair's too much the gentleman to mention it. But as you very well know, your own behaviour hasn't been so very nun-like that you dare have it shown up in court.
Alistair is the first man I ever loved, and I hope he won't be the last. But legal difficulties do not exist for people with money. At all events, as Alistair cannot afford to divorce me, and I don't wish to divorce him, the question does not arise. What o'clock is it?
I do think you might buy a wristwatch, Eppie. I've told you so over and over again.
Why should I go to the expense of buying a wristwatch when everyone else has one? I've nothing to do but ask.
It's 12:10.
Oh, goodness gracious, I've missed my lesson. Oh, how annoying.
Listen, what are you learning now, may I ask?
Judo, when you next indulge in your favourite sport of wife-beating, look out for a surprise. Mr. Sagamore, what did I come here for?
To give me instructions about your will.
She draws up a new will whenever she loses her temper, Sagamore. Jolly good business for you.
Do be quiet, Alistair. You forget the dignity of your position as my husband. Mr. Sagamore, I have changed my mind about my will. And I shall overlook your attempt to poison me.
Oh, thank you.